Inside America's Boardrooms, the informational show for board members and corporate secretaries. Brought to you with knowledge partners NASDAQ, the Center for Audit Quality, and PwC. Along with content contributors Equilar, Meridian Compensation Partners, Wilson Sonsini Goodrich and Rosati, Donnelly Financial Solutions, and the Society for Corporate Governance.
Welcome to this edition of Inside America's Boardrooms. I'm TK Kerstetter, the CEO of Boardroom Resources and the editor-at-large for Corporate Board Member Magazine. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the show, and we've got a good show today. Interestingly enough, you'll notice that our backdrop here is a little different. We are doing a remote, and we're here in Nashville, Tennessee, at the Hilton and Sally Dean Institute of Corporate Governance and Integrity. And we want to thank Tony Stevens and his team for creating this environment so that we could do a show here in Nashville. So we have a great topic today. We're going to be talking about building an effective board-CFO relationship. And joining me to be sort of our expert on that topic is Tony Crudele, who's the lead director for Hibbett Sporting Goods, and also is the former CFO for Nashville-based Tractor Supply Company. So Tony, welcome.
Great. It's really a pleasure to be here, TK.
So in your career, you've been the CFO of several public companies, and for the last 12 years, before you recently retired, you were with Tractor Supply, which certainly during your tenure was a high growth and well-performing company. So before we ask you the board questions, okay, we want to ask you a question to help our audience understand what you think the relationship should be between the CFO and the board. First, talk about it from the CFO's position, and then talk about it from the board's view.
Well, I think it's extremely critical that you have open dialogue between the board and the CFO. From a CFO perspective, it was really critical to be able to have that access to the board. In particular, I would say audit committee chair, in preparing the press releases, going over the quarterly numbers, understanding what they were looking for their committees, and some of the topics that might be critical to them. So I always felt it was very important for me to be able to have that direct access. I think when you flip it around from a board perspective, I think each board member should have the opportunity to talk to the CFO at their discretion. And I think that it can be really a learning process, especially for the non-financial board members. And then they can also have a better understanding of the consistency of the messaging that's going to be taking place with investors and the street and the analysts relative to the strategic positioning of the company. And so this can probably put you in a little tenuous situation because you don't want to be in conflict with the CEO and his vision, but at the same time you want to be very practical and relevant about the company's position and whether you have the appropriate capital allocation that will support the strategic vision. Now, in my case, I'm always in lockstep with the CEO, so it's really a non-issue. I think if you flip it around, as lead director, I would like to know what my board members what the conversations they're having with the CFO, only from the standpoint that I don't want there to be conflicting direction, even though I don't believe that directors should be giving direction to management. But I'd like to make sure that I have an understanding of those conversations and the type of information that they're getting.
So when a new board member joined, was there an onboarding process where you would sit with them and sort of teach them the business a little bit? Because not every board member is going to know, the inner workings. So did you play that role too?
Well, I took over the lead director position in March. And we actually are onboarding one board member that just came on at the last board meeting in the summer. And I have been working with them, and he has had direct dialogue with several members. In this case, it was digital marketing, and so he's had direct conversations with our lead marketing and lead digital manager at Hibbett.
So obviously CFOs are a very desirable board candidate. They have financial expertise, which is always at the top of everybody's board list. They have operating experience, because who's more in the flow of what's happening than the CFO? So they're sought after by boards. What I'm curious about, when you got that first board opportunity, and all of a sudden you went from sitting at the CFO side of the table to the board side of the table or an evaluating CEO, what was that like? What was your first, what did you learn from that experience?
Yeah, one, it's a tremendous opportunity, and I would encourage all companies to provide that opportunity to your CFO if they can get on a board. A little human nature, I think your first inclination when you're looking at that management team is you're evaluating them through a very narrow lens of your past experience and how your current company in particular is working or behaves in the boardroom and executes against a strategy. So, to a certain extent, it's a little bit of an unfair evaluation as you go through it for the first time, because you have to understand that that company has a completely different culture, industry could be different, that the environment, the working relationships, and then as you go through the board meeting, sort of the presentation style, the type of reports they're looking at, what they review, what's critical to them, and you sort of sit back and you really have to just take it all in as you start to develop an understanding of the management team and that particular business. So I always felt you need to take at least two meetings. Almost don't say anything, even though you have some input, but just sort of learn the environment. But then that viewpoint and perspective that you have, it sort of flips around. It becomes an advantage, because now they have one way of looking at it. Now all of a sudden they have this different perspective. Somebody else is going to be asking questions, saying, "Hey, why do you do it this way? Shouldn't you look at it in this perspective?" And I think that was a tremendous advantage when, after I became more vocal in the board meetings. A lot of the board members come out and say, we just didn't see it that way, and we're really happy that you're on board and bring a different perspective.
Well, that's where certainly when you go to somebody like Hibbett and you say, I have all this retail experience, I have this CFO experience. Again, you would provide a board an excellent, foundation for saying, hey, have you ever thought about this? Or, because you experienced all that in your, all those years on the retail side.
Yeah, it was, for me, a perfect fit, because I understood sporting goods from my time at the Sports Authority, and then Tractor Supply is really about small town markets, which really was the Hibbett approach. So I was really 2 for 2 in their sort of strategic plan, and then being at a retailer and being in the retail industry, Tractor Supply is close to $7 billion in sales. Hibbett closer to $1 billion in sales. So everything that they were going through, it was just, they're going through the same learning pains that I had gone through for many years. So it was actually very invigorating to be able to go in and really feel like you were helping and contributing.
Well, somebody did a good job in the director succession of finding you in the mass of candidates. And you had mentioned this, but I want to go back to this. You actually served on Hibbett's board while you were a sitting CFO for Tractor Supply. There are companies that don't want, some don't even want their CEO, but certainly they don't want other members of senior management while they're employed, taking time away to serve on another board.
Right.
Yet I would think, I've always looked at that as it's an amazing way for somebody to grow and understand not only how another company is doing something, but just learn the experience of what the board expectations are from senior management that would mature you and help you in your current CFO role. And I assume from your earlier comments that you would agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, absolutely. Tremendous experience, and highly recommended to companies that have that opportunity to let their CFO be on another board. When I look back, I think what happens is it really stretches the CFO and the way he looks at a business. At times, you wind up getting mired in a lot of detail as a manager in the company. Here, you go in and you have less access to data, and you really now have to manage at even a higher level than you're managing at your own company. And so it forces you to be at that high level 30,000 foot view, and it forces you to be more strategic. So you zero in on strategic issues. And when I look back, I think that was the greatest advantage, was that now all of a sudden you are forced to just deal with strategic issues, and it broadens your way of thinking. Now at the same time, if I was the CEO of the company, I would put some guardrails around what type of opportunities I would let the CFO explore. It's a tremendous time of commitment, but if the company is financially strapped, if there's an activist involved, if there's some other governance issues, if there's suits, shareholder suits, that could be extremely time consuming. So I would be very cautious in the type of opportunity that I would permit the CFO to do, but I would definitely look for opportunities for that individual that sort of fit their skill set, and made sure that it wasn't a significant time commitment that would pull them away from their day-to-day job.
Well, Tony, that is very good advice to companies out there, and it's no surprise to me, with your background, why you would make a good director for, Hibbett or any company. So I want to thank you for taking the time to come in and sort of share those views with us on the CFO and board relationship. And again, thank you for joining us.
Well, great. Thank you for your kind comments, and I absolutely appreciate being here. It's tremendous.
We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back again next week when we take a look at another critical topic that'll help you be a better board member or committee member. So we'll see you then.
Join us again next week for Inside America's Boardrooms. Brought to you with Knowledge Partners, NASDAQ, the Center for Audit Quality, and PwC. Along with content contributors Equilar, Meridian Compensation Partners, Wilson Sonsini Goodrich and Rosati, Donnelly Financial Solutions, and the Society for Corporate Governance.